I had a running bet with the obstetrician before my first son was born. He insisted the elevated heart rate indicated I was carrying a girl, and I secretly hoped he was right. I was a feminist and familiar with the potential pitfalls that lay ahead for a daughter, but wasn't quite sure what to do with a boy. Well, the gods have a sense of humor about this sort of thing, because my second obstetrician insisted my younger son was also female for the very same reason. Fool me once and then show me an ultrasound. I can find a penis in a haystack. One of the nurses took an immediate shine to my older child as he lay in the bassinet right after his birth, eyes wide open, looking all around, not making a sound. "Oh, he's just like my little guy," she said knowingly. "So laid back, so calm, you're so lucky." 36 years ago, hospital policy strictly stated that no baby could ever leave the nursery during visiting hours, not for a grandparent, older sibling, or best friend in from out of town. Well, the hallways were filled with visitors when that very same seasoned nurse wheeled the bassinet into my room, clearly out of breath. "Nurse him," she demanded. When I inquired about the health and safety rules, she replied, "We cannot take the screaming anymore, just feed him." He obviously knew what he wanted and when. The day we left the hospital, child in tow, my husband and I stood next to a proud couple holding their sleeping baby girl in the elevator. She was the vision of sweet repose, dressed in pink. My son looked cute, I guess, but he had an especially large head, and it was stuck inside a teeny tiny newborn hat that barely tied under the chin. And it was much sunnier in the lobby than the nursery. So he scrunched up his little swollen face that was raw and pimpled from a laundry rash with a Band-Aid that covered a nick from the scalpel where the doctor had accidentally cut above his ear during the C-section, as if to say, "Shut those fucking lights off." And so it began. Before our son was born, my husband and I would lay on the bed with our golden retriever puppy between us, and we'd point to the wooden basket that would one day become our child's cradle and murmur, "And that's where the baby will sleep." The baby, perhaps, but not our baby, because our baby never slept. He nursed all day and all night, but he never slept. And I know this because I never slept. I spent too many nights walking outside in the Syracuse winter, holding him in my arms because it was the only time he'd stop crying. I felt like a failure as a mother and envied my husband, who got to leave the house each morning for graduate school. We had no family within 200 miles, and the only new friends we'd made also had an infant 2 days younger than our own. She had a beautiful teacup face, an easygoing personality, and slept both day and night. I hated her. An old friend came to visit when the baby was a month old. She had been raised with 5 siblings and knew her way around the infant crowd. When they cried, she didn't panic, but she knew to hold them close and sway her body until they calmed. I remember her sitting at the kitchen table, holding my son in her arms and smiling into his little face. His body relaxed as he stared at her, knowing he was finally in the presence of someone who knew what she was doing. She kept coaxing him to smile, something he had never done. I had forgotten that baby smiled. "He's too young," I whispered to her. "Oh, I don't think so," she said. "He's just getting ready." And within a minute, the corners of his tiny mouth turned up, and there it was. This magician of a woman had found a way to his heart and a bridge to my own. He still never slept. He still nursed all day. But when he looked into my eyes, he smiled softly before he screamed as the colic descended upon his bowels. The screams of a newborn are especially unsettling because we are biologically programmed to attend to their needs. And I have read that infants nestle into the crook of our necks right here because we're wired to respond with tenderness. And I know scientists claim that babies seduce us with their smiles to ensure the continuation of the species. But in that first moment of that first smile, I had hope. Hope that perhaps I was not that beast of a woman who ripped apart the wet crib bedding at 3 a.m., exasperated by this tiny being who always needed more than I had to give, who used the cool water left on the diaper stand to wash his bottom in the middle of the night because I was too exhausted to make my way to the bathroom where the warm water flowed, and who considered putting a knife between my husband's shoulder blades as he slept soundly through the night, knowing full well that I would never be convicted if even just one woman on the jury had experienced life with a colicky baby. That smile spoke of forgiveness for all of the missteps, all of the lapses in judgment, all of the words said in anger that I would later come to regret. Thank you.